There's a quiet trap many people fall into without realizing it. They postpone happiness. They tell themselves, I'll be happy when life gets easier. I'll be happy when I earn more. I'll be happy when people finally appreciate me. But happiness doesn't usually arrive as a reward, waiting at the end of struggle. More often, it begins with a decision to stop giving circumstances complete control over your inner peace. Today, we'll explore why happiness is less about what happens around you and more about what you choose within you. Chapter 1. Stop waiting for life to be perfect. One of the biggest reasons people struggle to feel happy is surprisingly simple. They believe happiness must be earned. They think joy comes only after struggle ends, only after problems disappear, only after life becomes stable. But think about what that belief creates. If you require perfect conditions to feel peace, how often will you actually feel peaceful? Probably not often, because real life is messy. There will always be unfinished work, unexpected bills, relationship tension, health concerns, uncertainty about the future. Life doesn't pause long enough to become perfect, and if perfection becomes a requirement for happiness, then happiness becomes almost impossible. This is why some people can have everything society admires: money, status, achievements, and still feel empty. From the outside, their life looks ideal, but internally, they remain restless. Why? Because external success cannot automatically create internal peace. You can improve your circumstances and still carry the same anxious mind. You can change your environment and still keep the same emotional patterns. This is something many people overlook. They keep trying to solve internal emptiness with external achievements. But peace doesn't work that way. Imagine carrying a glass of muddy water. Instead of letting the dirt settle, you keep shaking the glass. Then you wonder why the water never becomes clear. That is what many minds look like. Constant worry, constant fear, constant comparison, constant overthinking. No stillness, no pause, no space for clarity. Then happiness feels impossible, not because joy isn't available, but because the mind never becomes calm enough to receive it. And here is another trap. Many people unknowingly train themselves to notice what is wrong more than what is right. They wake up and immediately focus on problems. What needs fixing? What is missing? What feels unfair? What someone said yesterday? The brain becomes conditioned to search for negativity. Over time, negativity stops being temporary. It becomes habitual. It becomes the default lens through which everything is viewed. That habit quietly steals joy. Not in dramatic ways, in subtle ones. You stop appreciating small moments. A peaceful morning feels ordinary. A meal with family feels routine. A quiet evening feels forgettable. Yet those ordinary moments often contain the very peace people claim to be searching for. The problem is not always absence of joy. Sometimes it is absence of awareness. We miss what is already present because the mind is obsessed with what is missing. And that mindset creates chronic dissatisfaction. No matter how much life gives, it never feels enough. There will always be another reason to complain, another reason to worry, another reason to postpone happiness. But what if joy doesn't require life to change first? What if peace begins the moment you stop demanding perfection? What if happiness becomes possible? Not because every problem disappears, but because you stop allowing every problem to dominate your emotional world. This is where transformation begins. The moment you realize life may never be perfect, but it can still be meaningful, it can still be beautiful, it can still contain peace. And once you stop waiting for perfect circumstances, you stop living in emotional delay. You stop telling yourself, one day I'll be happy. Instead, you begin asking a better question. How can I protect my peace today? That question changes everything, because happiness stops being a distant destination and starts becoming a daily practice. Chapter 2. What you feed your mind begins to shape your life. There is something powerful about the human mind. It doesn't simply reflect reality, it interprets reality, and the way it interprets reality often determines how life feels. That means two people can experience the same event and walk away with completely different emotional outcomes. One sees a setback and thinks, this is proof that I'm failing. Another sees the same setback and thinks, this is difficult, but I can learn from it. Same event, different interpretation, different emotional result. This is why protecting your thoughts matters so much, because thoughts rarely stay as thoughts. They become emotions. Emotions influence behavior. Behavior shapes habits, and habits eventually shape the direction of your life. It often starts subtly. A negative thought appears. Maybe someone ignores your message. Immediately the mind creates a story. They don't respect me. They don't value me. I must not matter. Nothing external has actually changed, but internally, emotional turbulence has already begun. Why? Because the mind filled the silence with assumptions, and most assumptions, when left unchecked, lean negative. This is one of the mind's default tendencies. It naturally scans for danger, for problems, for threats. From an evolutionary perspective, this helped humans survive, but in modern life, this same mechanism can work against us. The brain becomes hyper-focused on what is wrong. You can receive 10 compliments and 1 criticism. Which one will most people replay in their head? Usually, the criticism. You can have a wonderful day and 1 unpleasant moment. Which moment steals your attention? Often, the unpleasant one. That's how powerful negative focus can be. It magnifies, it expands, it occupies mental space far beyond its actual size. And if you don't consciously interrupt that pattern, negative thinking becomes normal. At first, it feels like occasional stress. Then it becomes constant mental noise. Worry becomes background music. Anxiety becomes familiar. Overthinking becomes automatic. Eventually, many people stop noticing how mentally exhausted they've become. They live in survival mode, always tense, always scanning, always expecting the next problem. And here's what makes this dangerous. When negativity becomes familiar, the mind begins looking for evidence to support it. If you believe life is unfair, your attention will keep collecting proof. If you believe nothing ever works out, your mind will notice every failure more than every success. If you believe people cannot be trusted, you will become hyper-aware of disappointment. In other words, your mind starts reinforcing whatever story you repeatedly tell yourself. This doesn't mean positive thinking is about denying reality. It's not about pretending pain doesn't exist. It's about refusing to let negativity become your dominant lens. There is a big difference. Healthy optimism says, yes, this is difficult, but difficulty is not the whole story. That perspective creates resilience, and resilience protects peace. Think about this. What kind of thoughts greet you each morning? Before you even get out of bed, what enters your mind? Stress, pressure, fear, regret, or possibility, gratitude, hope? Most people underestimate how much the first few thoughts of the day influence everything that follows. Morning thoughts often set emotional direction. If the day begins with stress, that tension can quietly follow you for hours. But if the day begins with intention, something shifts. You respond differently. You think differently. You carry yourself differently. This is why mental discipline matters. You cannot always control what thoughts arrive, but you can decide which thoughts deserve attention. Not every thought deserves belief. Not every fear deserves energy. Not every worry deserves a space in your mind. Sometimes peace begins with a simple decision. I will not let this thought control me. That decision creates distance, and distance creates clarity. Once you stop automatically believing every negative thought, you begin reclaiming emotional freedom. You stop becoming a prisoner of mental noise, and slowly your inner world becomes lighter, calmer, stronger, because the mind becomes shaped by what you repeatedly feed it. Feed it resentment, and resentment grows. Feed it fear, and fear grows. Feed it gratitude, and gratitude grows. Feed it peace, and peace grows. Whatever you nourish internally eventually becomes stronger. So if you want a happier life, start by examining what you repeatedly allow into your mind. Because happiness is not only influenced by circumstances, it is deeply influenced by mental atmosphere. And that atmosphere is shaped every day by your attention. Chapter 3. Stop giving other people control over your happiness. One of the fastest ways to lose peace is to hand emotional control to other people. Many people do this without realizing it. They allow someone else's behavior to determine how they feel. A harsh comment ruins their day. A rejection damages their confidence. A cold response makes them question their worth. A criticism stays in their head for days, and little by little they become emotionally dependent on external approval. That dependence is dangerous because people are unpredictable. Some people will misunderstand you. Some will judge you without knowing your story. Some will project their pain onto you, and some people simply carry negativity everywhere they go. If your emotional state rises and falls with every opinion around you, peace becomes impossible. You become reactive. You stop living from inner stability and start living from external validation. That creates emotional exhaustion. You constantly adjust yourself to avoid disapproval. You over-explain. You overthink. You replay conversations in your head. You analyze tone, words, expressions. You search for hidden meaning in everything, and the mind never rests. But here is something worth remembering. Not everyone's opinion deserves equal weight. Just because someone says something about you does not automatically make it true. People often speak from their own wounds, their own insecurities, their own frustrations. Sometimes criticism reveals more about the speaker than the target. This doesn't mean ignore all feedback. Growth requires humility, but wisdom means knowing the difference between helpful correction and destructive noise. You do not need to carry every negative word people throw at you. Not every comment deserves emotional rent inside your mind. Ask yourself, why am I giving this so much power? Why am I allowing one person's mood to steal my peace? Emotional maturity begins when you stop personalizing everything. Not every silence is rejection. Not every disagreement is disrespect. Not every criticism is an attack. Sometimes people are simply dealing with battles you cannot see, and their behavior reflects that. The more secure you become internally, the less you need constant external reassurance. You stop chasing approval. You stop trying to make everyone understand you. You stop exhausting yourself proving your worth. Because real confidence feels different. It is quieter. It does not need applause. It does not panic when misunderstood. It remains grounded. And once you stop allowing others to control your emotional state, something powerful happens. Freedom returns. You become less reactive, more peaceful, more centered. Because your happiness is no longer placed in fragile hands, it begins to live within you. Chapter 4. Gratitude changes what you notice. There is a simple truth many people overlook. What you focus on expands. Whatever consistently holds your attention begins to shape your emotional experience. Focus on lack, and life feels empty. Focus on problems, and life feels heavy. Focus on gratitude, and something shifts. Gratitude does not mean pretending everything is perfect. It does not deny pain. It does not ignore hardship. Instead, gratitude restores balance. It reminds you that pain is not the entire picture. Even during difficult seasons, something valuable still remains. Perhaps you still have breath in your lungs. Perhaps someone still cares about you. Perhaps opportunities still exist ahead. Perhaps this painful chapter is not the end of your story. Gratitude helps the mind see what negativity often hides. And this matters because many people become blind to blessings through familiarity. What once felt extraordinary becomes ordinary. You prayed for what you now overlook. The things you once deeply wanted have become normal parts of daily life. This happens quietly. The home you wished for, the job you worked hard to get, the people you love, the health you rarely think about, the ordinary comforts of daily life. Familiarity can make blessings invisible, and invisibility kills appreciation. Suddenly, life feels empty, not because nothing is good, but because the mind stopped noticing what is good. This is why gratitude is so powerful. It reawakens awareness. It slows the mind down. It interrupts automatic dissatisfaction. Try this. At the end of a difficult day, ask yourself one question. What still went right today? Not everything. Just one thing, one conversation, one quiet moment, one small kindness, one moment of peace. At first, the mind may resist because negativity is loud. But with practice, awareness changes. And when awareness changes, experience changes. Gratitude does not remove every burden, but it keeps burdens from becoming your entire identity. That alone can transform the emotional weight of life. Chapter 5. Happiness is a daily decision. Many people misunderstand happiness. They think happiness is an emotion that randomly arrives, something that happens to lucky people. But lasting happiness works differently. It behaves more like a discipline, a practice, a daily decision, not a single decision made once, a repeated decision. Every day, every morning, every moment you face difficulty, you decide what kind of atmosphere you will cultivate internally. Will you feed resentment or peace? Will you feed fear or trust? Will you feed bitterness or gratitude? These choices seem small, but repeated daily, they become powerful. Because small mental choices compound, just like habits shape the body. Mental habits shape the inner life. If you repeatedly rehearse negative thinking, negativity strengthens. If you repeatedly choose gratitude, gratitude strengthens. What you practice grows. This is why happiness is rarely accidental. It is cultivated. You build it, moment by moment, choice by choice, day by day. And some days will be harder than others. There will be mornings when peace feels difficult, days when stress feels overwhelming, seasons when joy feels distant. That does not mean happiness is impossible. It simply means the practice matters even more. Some people assume happiness means always feeling cheerful. That is not realistic. Real happiness is deeper than temporary emotion. It is inner steadiness. It is emotional resilience. It is the ability to remain anchored even when life becomes uncertain. That kind of happiness cannot be purchased. It cannot be borrowed. It must be built. And the good news is, it can begin now, not later, not after everything improves. Now, in this moment, with a single decision. Life will not always go according to plan. There will be unexpected detours, unexpected disappointments, unexpected losses. That is part of being human. No one escapes difficulty. No one lives free from challenge. But difficulty does not automatically destroy peace. What often hurts us most is not only what happens, but what we allow to grow inside us afterward. The resentment, the fear, the constant replaying, the emotional weight we continue carrying. At some point we must ask ourselves, what am I choosing to hold on to? Am I holding on to peace or feeding pain? Am I protecting gratitude or rehearsing negativity? Am I choosing happiness or endlessly postponing it? Because happiness is not always found in perfect circumstances. It is often found in perspective, in awareness, in daily choices, in the decision to protect your inner peace. And perhaps that is the real shift. Stop waiting for life to become perfect before allowing yourself to feel joy. Stop postponing peace. Stop telling yourself, one day when everything changes, I'll finally be happy. That day may never come, but this moment is here, right now. And perhaps happiness begins here, not because every problem has disappeared, but because you choose not to let every problem define your inner world. Choose peace, choose gratitude, choose perspective, choose happiness again tomorrow, and the day after that, because the life you experience tomorrow is being shaped by the mindset you practice today.